and stuff, but for now I don't see. Yes, Ushi. Yes. Hey, Ushi. It's been a long time. Hello, Anami. Okay, great. So everyone, this meeting is being recorded so we can reuse the webinar further on. Okay, thank you all. Very happy to see everything's fine. My name is Olivier de Witt. I'm with Visit USA. I work for a Belgian tour operator. I'm very happy to have you all here with us with Visit USA, and I'm very happy to introduce Michel Cota from Discover New England, who is going to now give you guys a full presentation on New England. Michelle, I propose it's 4:03 that you start, and if people
Great.
keep on coming in, I will allow them in. For the people who just arrived, please ask all your questions in the chat. I'll moderate it, and at the end, we will have a look at all the questions left. Here we go. Michelle, it's
Great.
all yours. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Oliver. And good afternoon, everybody. I hope your week is going well. And I just want to send also a thank you to your colleague Peter and the whole team at Visit USA Belgium for allowing me this opportunity to present my beautiful home to you all. We've recently joined as new members of Visit USA Belgium, and I also hope to be in Belgium later on this year for some big events that are coming up. So, um, and we also work with a number of representation offices to represent New England over in the Benelux region as well as France. And so we work with Target Travel based in the Netherlands, and we also work with a company called Orchestra Tourism based in Belgium, who also looks after France for us. But we absolutely really do value the work that our Visit USA partners do, and we want to make sure that we're utilizing all your resources. So again, thank you for having me today to present New England to you all. So let's see, I'm a little rusty with Teams, so please shout at me if it looks like it's not working. But um, so what is Discover New England? So Discover New England, we're a regional marketing organization representing the 6 New England states, and I'll go into what those states are and what they're known for and how they also work so cohesively together. We've been around since 1992. We are a very unique partnership with how we just work so well proximity-wise with having major gateways, with Boston being our biggest gateway, but many folks also come in through New York or in through Montreal or even down into DC and then come up by train or airline up into New England as well. So there's lots of ways to get to us. It's probably it is your shortest flight over from your origin markets to come into our to the United States. So it's we do benefit quite a bit from proximity there. Um, so our arrivals from Belgium, and we combine the Benelux regions together. From Belgium and the Netherlands into New England, I wanted to show this chart just to represent and show how it's been growing in the rate of growth since 2019. And particularly, you see that yellow line, that's Rhode Island, and then the red and blue are New Hampshire and Maine. So that shows that just the demand and the growth from your region has been excellent into New England, and obviously Boston is our biggest arrivals and hosts, and so that makes Massachusetts the number one state out of New England for folks to come into. And this past year, we've hosted approximately 47,000 visitors from Belgium and the Netherlands into Massachusetts alone. So, but we are gaining a lot of interest, and we've been getting some great media coverage, and we've been getting some new airlines going in. So it really has done wonders in amplifying that interest. Um, there are direct flights into Amsterdam from Boston and vice versa on Delta, KLM, Air France, the new JetBlue, and TAP. There's loads of one stops from Brussels as well. So we are a very easy gateway to get into. As I mentioned, we have multiple gateways. Boston is the most central. It is what a lot of people say it's like the state of New England, and Boston is the capital, kind of, even though we are 6 states. But we all view Boston as our city, and I live in New Hampshire. I'm only 1 hour from Boston. That's so close to get to. A lot of cities, when you go into a city, you drive an hour, you're still in the same city, but not in New England. You can get to all 6 states within an hour. So it's also a very large airport. It serves more than 40 airlines. It has 144 nonstop destinations. So there's a lot of movement throughout that airport as well. Um, so what is New England known for? How do we stand out different from other destinations in the world? And I would say New England, we are known for having, we're just like a naturally beautiful and adventurous region. We have these beautiful, charming villages and sophisticated bed and breakfasts and main streets. And so when people come to New England, they're walking into essentially our culture and our living history. You see it in our architecture, you see it in our lighthouses, you see it in our historic covered bridges, you see it in our downtowns and in the art and the sounds that you see. You also can taste it. There's food that's really only in New England. I mean, you get our New England lobster, our Maine lobster, you get to have um our Vermont maple syrups and our dairies and cheddars and ice creams like Ben and Jerry's. And so we are, when people come, you are eating the freshest seafood right out of the ocean. And then the food has been grown in the local farm. And that's just our way of life. So you're stepping into that. I put in some food on the top left of this slide, which is a sampler of New England treats that when you come, I kind of encourage you to do this as a scavenger hunt to make sure you get that Boston cream pie when you go into Massachusetts. Try some Johnny cakes with some Dell lemonade when you go into Rhode Island. Connecticut's known for its white clam pizza, which it sounds funny, but I dare you to try it. It will surprise you. It's pretty good. And then we have, of course, Vermont dairy and cheddar and maple syrup. New Hampshire is known for its cider donuts and its chowders. In Maine, of course, the lobster rolls and the Moxie soda is such a nostalgic drink there. And there's actually Moxie festivals that happen in Maine. So, but there's you really do become a New Englander when you come in. And one of the most important things is when you're in New Englander, if you're not a sports fan, you got to fake it. We're sports country. We are Red Sox, baseball, Patriots for football. We are known for our hockey and our Bruins teams, and we have been doing pretty well. And the Celtics, of course, has gone really, really far this year. So, one of the first things we recommend that you do when you come in is make sure you get into a game if you can. And even if there isn't a game playing, you can go visit Gillette and do these behind the scenes tours, or go into Fenway and do a historic tour and see, the oldest stadium, most famous oldest stadium in the country. So there's ways to get there. Also, colleges and universities is a very important draw for New England all over. We have a number of Ivy League schools here, including Harvard, Yale, Dartmouth, but there's also like so many colleges, and especially in Boston alone, that does cause an influx in our population during the school year. So it's a big draw for our region. I want to play this quick video for you. It's a great overview. Freezing. So this is we're very seasonal. So right now it's full-blown winter. I just went skiing at Stratton and hopped over to Killington right after, and then I'll be going to Loon later on this week. So the mountains are fully open right now through most of New England. They have wonderful snowmaking. So even if Mother Nature is may not be cooperating. The mountains still do a really great job at maintaining their conditions. So I would say the best time for winter sports, if that's where your clients are interested in coming, our snowpack tends to be the deepest around February into mid-March. Right now it's been staying nice and cold, so the snow has been holding really well, and actually some of the wood skiing was still really good in Vermont. So this winter is actually doing really, really well for conditions. But one of the words of caution is with your clients is to avoid Massachusetts vacation week for schools. That tends to be the second week in February. And also Martin Luther King weekend tends to be very high. Prices tend to be inflated and they sell out really, really fast. So those are the weeks I would say to avoid if you don't want to compete with the domestic travel there. Um, and when you start looking into spring, and it is a great time to come, it tends to be a lot quieter in New England around the spring. I one of the words of caution is May into early June is college graduation in Boston. There's another university or college that graduates almost on a daily basis through that. So it can be difficult to make reservations in the city, but you still can experience the city. The crowds tend to be more focused around the university itself. So we would recommend if you are not able to find pricing that you are looking for hotels, there are wonderful places just off of the train lines, just outside of the city. So you can still go in and do all the experiences you want to have and have alternatives to your hotels. So looking at places like north of Boston or over into Andover, Mass, or into Lexington, Mass, or down into Quincy, those are some options to look for alternative lodging, but still get the city experience. Um, Another good point for summer. So summer, of course, that's when all the attractions are open. We have our trains, our cruises, our schooners, our whale watches, you can go do farm tours and hikes, and it's such a great time to be there in the summer. The Another great time that I would encourage folks to look at is late August into early September. That's that between time when a lot of the families that are visiting New England have gone back to school, but all the attractions are still fully open. The weather feels summer-like, and it's right before the fall foliage rush. So that time, that bracket of time, you can really get some much better rates and you have no crowds. It's just such a great time to be in New England in all six states. Um, and then for fall foliage, that's also a very important time. I know I think a number of folks refer to it as Indian summer over there. I believe I've been asked to start weaning that phrase out because of cultural sensitivity. So they've been asked to refer to it as autumn or fall foliage. And that moves from the northern states and works its way south. So you start to see changes in late September. It's usually peak by the first 2 weeks in October, and then it works its way further south, and then that's where you start to see more colors into late October. And then usually by November, it's we're moving on to the next season. So, and one other tip on this one before I move away, when it comes to moving throughout the region, um, there's there's a lot of population that wants to come and vacation in New England on a Friday or Saturday, and a lot of them are leaving Boston. So I would encourage if you have clients coming in that you make it so they would stay in the city on weekends when it tends to be a lot quieter, and then leave the city midweek. So if you were to leave the city on a Sunday or a Monday, you're not competing with other vacation traffic trying to get onto Cape Cod or up into Maine or into New Hampshire or down into the beaches in Rhode Island and Connecticut. So you have a much more relaxing drive, and then you also can get better rates in the city and better rates when you go into the other six states. So yeah, so just to recap, if you can do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, maybe a Sunday morning in the city, and then do midweeks after that in the other parts of the states, that's a great tip for you to plan. Um, so here are the six states. We represent Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont. Um, and I'll go into what each of these states are known for and what some of their new draws are and top attractions are. So you'll be able to have a great overview. As you can see on the east side, we have a very especially even down along the whole Connecticut, Rhode Island, throughout Massachusetts and up into Maine. That's all beautiful coastline. So a lot of folks do come and they want to experience our entire coastline. Um, and then when you go into Maine, New Hampshire, and especially the whole length of Vermont, that gets much more mountainous. And then Western Massachusetts is, and also Western Connecticut is also very mountainous. So that those tend to be more rolling hills, where Vermont and New Hampshire and Northern Maine tend to have the bigger mountains. Um, New York is on the west side, and Canada is just north of us. So Montreal, just to give you an idea, to the border is, I think it's maybe about an hour, hour and a half to get to the Vermont border. So that is a very good gateway for folks who want to also want to come into like northern Maine or into northern Vermont. New York City is so close. It's like a lot of folks actually live in Western Connecticut and work in New York City. So you can come into New York City and start your tour that way as well. But as I mentioned before, Boston is the most important gateway that we have. There's a couple things when it comes to the tour durations. We usually recommend anywhere from 10 to 14 days if you really want to see the entire region in all six states. Obviously, you're going to be moving pretty quick with a 10-day itinerary, and you're not going to be able to soak in as much as you probably would like. You're going to miss quite a bit. Um, Bar Harbor, which is where Acadia National Park is way up in northern Maine, and obviously Cape Cod is a very well-known lure as well, where the Kennedys and all those have their homes. And so to do, if you want to add in Cape Cod or Bar Harbor, we do recommend that you add a little bit more time. So it becomes more of like a 14 to 20 day itinerary if you want to include all six states. It takes quite a bit for one to get up to Bar Harbor in Acadia. It's a pretty long drive, but it's stunning, and I would say it's definitely worth it if you have the time. So I'll start with Vermont. Vermont is the northwest part of New England. It parallels upstate New York in Canada. And I want to say Vermont, it's a vibe. It is a very proud local culture with a strong affinity for wellness and sustainability and eco travel and just authenticity. So Vermont is everywhere you go, there's locally owned galleries and locally owned country stores, and I think there's only one Target, which is a huge shopping chain in the whole state. And I think there's only one escalator in the entire state of Vermont. So it's really fun to go into Vermont and really and try their foods and go into these downtowns, which are absolutely spectacular. Um, as I mentioned previously about the food you got to try, it's the dairies and the maple syrups. So they have lots of fresh cheeses and ice creams and many working farms to visit. Its mountain biking culture is world renowned. So if you're a mountain biker and you do travel and you're willing to travel for this, you're probably going to know a lot about different Vermont resorts as well as like Kingdom trails. And there's a mountain biking trail that you could do. It's also many a spin-off that go from the entire length of the state, from Canada all the way down into Western Mass. So it's very much an active, exciting, fun destination. Some of the biggest lures for Vermont, you're looking at, as I mentioned, the towns that are so beautiful. And some of the popular ones are Montpelier, which is the capital, Woodstock, Vermont, Brattleboro, Vermont is really fun, Manchester, Stowe, Middlebury. But of course, if you go into Burlington, Burlington is their largest city, and it's also where the University of Vermont is, and a number of other universities are. But they have this street called Church Street that's closed to traffic. It's a pedestrian outdoor mall, and you always see music everywhere, outdoor like retail, and it's right within view of Lake Champlain. It's a very important draw to that entire city. So that's as I mentioned, Lake Champlain is a very large lake that goes between Vermont and the state of New York. And there's cruises on there, schooner tours. You can go, there's islands that you can bike between all the different islands that go across. It's beautiful. So I recommend checking that out. Um, New Hampshire is right next to Vermont. It's known for its tax-free shopping. It has the most amount of day scenic tourist trains and a whole bunch of different day cruises that you can do in the lakes region and off the seacoast. Um, when I say scenic trains, there's two of them that serve five-course meals on it as you go through the mountains. Another one is the world's first mountain climbing train called the Mount Washington Cog Railway, which goes to the summit of the highest peak in the Northeast, Mount Washington. Um, and it also has these beautiful smaller inns, but also grand resorts that came from the late 1800s. So one of them is the Omni Mount Washington Grand Resort. Another is the Mountain View Grand Resort. The Wentworth by the Sea is one on the coast, and that's when folks used to come with all their chefs and their cleaning staff and their whole family would used to spend the entire summers in New Hampshire, and they would all stay at these grand resorts back in the day. So yeah, it's a very much a luxury experience if you can stay at one of those. So what is New Hampshire known for? New Hampshire is known for again, it has its White Mountains, lakes, and the seacoast all within about an hour, hour and a half of each other. So as a result, you can get to towns such as Portsmouth or work your way up into Lake Winnipesaukee. We call it the lake. We'll know what you're talking about. We know there's a bunch of them. And then you can work your way up into the mountains where you'll be able to do, like I said, number of different train rides, but also a number of family-friendly attractions like Santa's Village and Clark's Trading Post is there that has trained bear shows and trapeze orchestra shows. So there's a lot going on in this state as well. And then working your way over into Maine, it's seafood and its scenic cruises are the best way to experience the state. So make sure you get a lobster roll if you can. You can also go and participate in harvesting oysters and preparing oysters. They have a Maine oyster trail, which is incredibly popular. And there's a number of different ways to experience them. There's this rowing company called Dory Woman Rowing, where she would row you in a dory boat, or there people will, and you go out to one of the islands and you'll be able to actually prepare an oyster meal with them when you do that. And you can also go out with lobstermen and go help trap and bring in lobster. So it's very hands-on. And Maine, just this past year or the year before, I believe, was designated a dark sky sanctuary in the northern parts of the state. And it's opening up, there's a number of outdoor adventure centers out there, such as the New England Outdoor Center is one of them. And the Appalachian Mountain Club has a number of different outdoor centers there as well that can equip you with gear that can take you out on guided hikes or snowshoe hikes, or there's whitewater rafting, you name it up there. So but the Dark Sky Sanctuary is very exciting for us, and we're looking at actually promoting more of that throughout our region. Um, some of the main draws for Maine. Most folks do hit Portland, Maine. That's their biggest city. It's a very active fishing village or fishing city as well. So you will see large fishing boats come in and um, but some of the big lures are those coastal communities that you do on your way up into Portland and then on your way up into Bar Harbor. So places such as York or Gunquit or Kennebunkport. Further north, you're looking at places like Freeport and Booth Bay Harbor and Rockport. So those are towns that are definitely, each one of them are very unique and worth the stop when you come through the region. LL Bean is based there, so there's its flagship store is in Freeport, and that's a really neat stop as well. Connecticut is the Southwest. This is is very much like we call it like our classy corner of New England. It's like where the New York City vibes with the more historic vibe of the other New England states, and they collide in Connecticut. So as a result, you have so many award-winning chefs. The wineries actually get really good when you start getting into Connecticut, and they have some more of that luxury level inns and resorts that people are looking for when it comes to more of that higher end experience. And then it has a lot of easy access in from New York City and then through the state with stops in these cultural downtowns along the way. One of their major draws, two of the major draws I'll point out is the Mystic Seaport area, which borders Rhode Island, and that's has a big living museum that folks can get on and see some of these tall ships. And then in Yale, which is one of the Ivy League universities in New Haven, they have 3 or 4 museums that are spectacular, that are completely free to the public to go into. And if you get a chance to do a guided tour of Yale University, it's worth it. Um, and also, they're famous for pizza. So you want to go get some New Haven style pizza when you're there. Um, and they also have casinos. They have 2 of the largest casinos in the United States. So it's Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods Resorts are based there, and they are full, not just casinos. They have things like zip lines and kart racing uh, and theater and lots of restaurants and shopping as well. And then the other parts of the state, we're looking more towards the western part of the state, is where you go into the Hills, and that's where there's waterfalls and hiking trails all over the place. So you get quite a variety in a little state. Just 2 more states to go here. Rhode Island is the southeast portion of New England, is the smallest state, and it is known for the sport of kings. So there's tennis. The Tennis Hall of Fame is there, and you can actually take a lesson with a tennis pro on their grass courts. They were known for sailing. It's famous. We were the host of the America's Cup for like decades, and some of the best sailing in the world can be found there. And you can actually go into the sailing museum, and you can also take sailing lessons with folks that have competed in the America's Cups. It's known for its golf courses and its polo as well. And some of the biggest draws for Rhode Island is you're looking at like the Newport mansions. This is where the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and the wealthy people at the turn of the 20th century and 18th century have moved into, or I'm sorry, 19th century, have opened up what they called their summer cottages, which are absolutely insane mansions. They're huge, and a number of them are still where people live. So you can't go into them, though it's like mansions all over the place in Newport. But there are several of them that are run by the Newport Mansions Historic Society, and you can do tours of those as well. So it's a neat experience, and they have an after hours tour offering exclusive for guests that are offered through travel agents and tour operators. Providence, Rhode Island is in the middle part of the state, and Providence is known for its culinary tours. You can do a Red's food tour, guided food tour of the city. It also is known for the RISD, the Rhode Island School of Art and Design, and there's just art all over the place. So there are tours that are food and art combined that you can do. One of the big draws of Providence is it's exceptionally LGBTQI friendly. And that goes to say for the entire region, we're very progressive as a region. We're some of the first states in the country to have, actually, we're the first to have fully sustainable and eco resorts that are 100% sustainable. And you see those in all 6 states. And also, we were the first states in the country to legalize same-sex marriage. So you'll see that throughout the whole part of the region. It's very welcoming and very progressive. And Providence, especially, is for LGBTQ friendly um, destinations. I went into a lot of this already, but I wanted to add that Block Island is a very important draw. That's off in Newport, and you can take ferries that are only just a couple of days to get there. That's that center photo. And then you'll see that photo where the river is lit up in fire. That is called Water Fire. And that festival happens all summer and fall. There's dates on their website for that, but you will hear music, see fire performers. It goes the length of the river, and there are boats you can take as you navigate through the fire floating in the river. It's a really neat experience. And last but far from least is Massachusetts, that does welcome the most amount of international visitors in. It's home to our largest city, Boston. It's just filled, it's oozing with revolutionary history, because we had the very first aggressive acts of the Revolutionary War and the American Revolution happen there. So you are walking into actual living history when you come in. And I mentioned the sports heritage. I mean, basketball was invented there. That's why the Basketball Hall of Fame is in West Springfield. We have known for this again. The Celtics is doing incredibly well. Go see our baseball and go see a number of our footballs, and also for those who are runners, the Boston Marathon is probably one of the most famous runs you can do. And trust me, the whole city shows up cheering. It's a wonderful experience. Um, we do have a sports tour of New England and a number of other itineraries, which I'll show you shortly. Um, so what I usually recommend for folks that are coming into Massachusetts or into Boston for the first time is that they first either sign up for a Boston Duck Tour or a guided trolley tour or a walking freedom tour of the city. Get your bearings, learn the whole context of where you are, and then you want to go up into View Boston, which shows the Hancock Building, and it's a great presentation with 360-degree views of the entire city. And then from there, there's a number of different attractions and multi-day passes that you could participate in. And then just some of the big draws are, as I mentioned, the North Shore. You're looking at places like Salem, Massachusetts, known for the witches and the witch museums, up to Gloucester, where you have Hammond Castle up there. If you go south of the city, you're looking at the cranberry bogs, where your clients can actually go help harvest the cranberries. And there's whale watches and beaches off of Cape Cod. And then Western Massachusetts, that's where you get into the Berkshires, which is known for the Boston Pops Orchestra, where they play all summer long at this amazing outdoor performance hall. There's the Mass MoCA Museum of Modern Art out there in the Berkshires. Beautiful drive is the Mohawk Trail, which obviously has a lot of Native American connections, but it's a great time to drive through, especially in the summer and in the fall. And then I only have just a couple more slides, so I think I'm doing really good for timing. Mentioned our different suggested itineraries. The Revolutionary History itinerary is a great one. We're going through our 250th and 300th year anniversary for a number of us because we obviously started the revolution before our country gained its independence in 1776. So we have been, for the past year, already experiencing a number of anniversaries, but gearing up for next year, the 250th, that's when there's going to be large year-long celebrations happening, especially around Massachusetts, into Maine, and into Rhode Island. We have the sports itinerary. We have 14 of these in general, and they're all 14-day itineraries that include all 6 states. So if you're not familiar with our region, or if you want to get some more deeper into our region, we have one that's a hidden gems and oddities, for example, with the world's largest filing cabinet is in there. Like, there's a lot of neat stuff for you to explore. I recommend you do that on discovernewengland.org. Um, Another thing that's happening next year is going to be a zoo for us. We're also hosting 7 different FIFA World Cup games, and one of them is going to be a quarterfinal. So we have that schedule out. This is where you might want to use those tips of looking at lodging. That's also off of the MBTA train lines and stuff like that. But it's a great excuse to come here, catch a game, and then stay and see the rest of the region. And then another big detail that's happening next year is in July, we're hosting the Sail 250. The tall ships are coming back to Boston from July 11th through 16th. And there's ships from all over the world that come for this. It's a very, very popular event. We have all the itineraries. So this is again, this is all on our website, discovernewengland.org. And you would go under the trade meet, or I'm sorry, the about drop down menu, but you can also get to it through this QR code. On the far right are the suggested itineraries, and we have a number of galleries on that page as well. If you have any need for images at any point, I know some of you come from different types of companies. So if you do need to do any kind of promotion, or if you're looking at showing any clients some more visuals of our region, I welcome you to go into our media hub. And then and if you are really not familiar with our region, I think your first stop should definitely be our digital visitor guide. We have this translated. It's also in French as well. So on that QR card, it really goes into what makes New England, New England, and some really great articles. This was written by one of the top publishers in the States called Yankee Publishing, and they were the ones that produced the digital guide or digital visitor guide for us. So that's it. That's my presentation. There's the website right there in the middle, and I hope you were able to discover some new and surprising things about our region that makes you want to come here. So thank you.
I'm coming to the America's Cup, most definitely.
Good.
Thank you, Michelle. This was quite a lot of information compacted in quite a lot of tips and tricks, and I think everybody just focused and listened very cautiously to everything you had to say, because for now in the chat, as far as I can see, everyone's just been listening and been watching. Yeah, so thank you very much. It was super
Of course.
interesting. Gave some insights, and I also think the tips about the train lines, etc., are things we don't think about a lot when we think about the northeast USA, and actually they can really be very helpful, especially with the zoo you mentioned. It's gonna
Yeah.
be so many events at
It's going to
once.
be
I'm gonna check.
exciting.
Yeah, everybody's still here. I just want to check with you guys. Are there any questions left for Michelle? Do you need anything? Now is the time to shoot your question in the chat. Let's have a look. And yeah, if you want to scan the QR codes, we'll of course also send them to you guys, but this is the time. So, does anyone have any further question for Michelle or for Visit USA? It's now the time, or just you'll have to be silent until next webinar next month, and I have to tell our people what it will be about. Just give me a second. There's really nothing up here in the chat. Guys, did you enjoy the webinar? Can you give us some feedback? That would be very cool. Uh, so February 25th, we'll have a webinar with Condor, the airline company. And March 25th, we'll have a webinar with Via Americana about mainly New York. Astrid is saying it was very interesting. Thank you, Astrid. I totally join you there. And I think everybody's just still in awe, Michelle. There you go. Anna asked the question, if you could just repeat once again when the graduation week in Boston takes place.
Oh, it's pretty much the whole month of May into the first week or two of June. I would say the first week in June can be a little crazy. The second week gets a lot better. They have the actual dates of which colleges are graduating when on the Meet Boston, MEET Boston website. I can get you that link as well. But you can see it's almost on a daily basis that there's another university going. So it's not impossible to get a hotel in the city. You still can, just because they come for just a it causes a surge for a day or two, and then the next college happens. So it's just expect it to be if you can plan a little further in advance, that's better, or look outside the city. That might be another alternative.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Anna, thank you very much for the question, Anna. Yeah, I think Michelle, we kind of yeah, mission accomplished.
Yay, that's great. Well, thank you
Everybody
so much,
seems.
Oliver. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. So, guys, if there are no further questions, I'm going to finish this Teams meeting. I really, really want to thank Michelle for this beautiful and great presentation. I think it was very, very interesting. We learned a lot. We hope to see you again,